most athletes who don't reach their full potential, it's not because they're afraid of losing. It's because they're afraid of the version of themselves that they meet after they give it their all. Because when you give everything, when there are no excuses, when there's no safety nets, when there's no backup plans, and you still come up short, you have to meet the real version of you in that moment. It's not an idealized version, it's not the potential version. That is actually you in that moment where you give it your all and it still doesn't work out. And most athletes spend their entire careers avoiding that meeting. And they try to protect themselves with certain stories like, oh, if I had better coaching, or if I started younger, or if I had really dedicated myself. They kind of get into this trap of this concept called bad faith, right? Where you lie to yourself about your own freedom and responsibility. You pretend that you're trapped by circumstances when really you're just scared to choose to go all in. Athletes do this constantly. Again, other stories you'll hear is like, I can't perform because of the pressure, or I can't focus because of distractions, or I can't succeed because this system is against me. Sometimes those things are real, don't get me wrong, but often they're just comfortable lies that we tell ourselves to protect us from having to face our actual capacity. There's a really terrifying truth out there around you giving everything and having to discover that you're ordinary, right? You might train perfectly, you might execute flawlessly, and still lose to someone who's better than you. And when that happens, you have to live with knowing that your ceiling is lower than what you thought it was. You have to know your limits. You have to know that the gap between who you are and who you want to be, that might be permanent. That's the real fear, I think, from an athlete's perspective. It's not the fear of failure, but it's the fear of finality. I once worked with an athlete who was like paralyzed before competitions, not physically paralyzed, but psychologically paralyzed. And after months of work together, we really got to the core of it, where he said, like, hey, if I never really try at this, I get to keep believing that I could have been great. But if I try and I'm not great, then I'm just me. And I don't know if that's enough. And honestly, that like broke my heart to hear that, because I think everybody can relate to that feeling in some way. That sort of like terror of being seen, of sort of being exposed, of having your limitations exposed, not just to others, but to yourself as well. But what I really learned is that that moment of confrontation, as terrifying as it is, it's also liberating, because once you know who you actually are, you can stop pretending. You can stop protecting yourself. You can stop performing for an imaginary audience and just be you, right? The great ones aren't afraid of self knowledge. They seek it out. They want to know their edges, their limits, their truth, not so that they can be defeated by it, but so they can work with reality instead of fantasy. There's a Buddhist concept out there called suchness, right? It means accepting things exactly as they are without the stories you layer on top. You are what you are, not more, not less. And ironically, that moment where you stop running from who you actually are is the moment where you can start becoming something more, because growth requires really an honest starting point to get started. You can't transcend a self that you won't acknowledge. So, what I want you to sit with is, who are you without the story, without the excuses, without the potential, without the if onlys? Are you willing to meet that person, to look them in the eye and say, okay, this is where we start right now, right? Because that's the only way forward, not protecting possibility, but confronting reality.
Yeah, I went through the video, and actually I really like it, um, because I believe it's pretty much what I tell you guys about, like finding your identity outside of football. I think it's the like same thing as he says at the end. When you remove all of the potential, ambition, everything, who are you underneath that? That's what you need to figure out to actually have that freedom.
Mhm.
So it's kind of what I tell you guys, but at the same time, he doesn't present it the same way, obviously, as many things can be told in different ways, and it's very good to understand them from different perspectives. So I think it's very helpful. Mm. What he says, though, that I don't really agree with is that most players, when they say they like feel pressure, they can't perform under pressure, and so on, that they are afraid of that kind of version of themselves. What he says is that most of the time, rather than it being the actual problems with pressure, with anxiety, he says they are afraid the of themselves when they reach the top level, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
And I wouldn't really agree with it. I think oftentimes it's actually an issue of the pressure and of anxiety, of low confidence. So, yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say like it's too common to have a fear of kind of having of not being good enough when you give it your all.
Mhm.
But it can happen, yeah.
Mhm. Got it. Got it. Yeah.
Cool. Is that do you want to ask anything else towards the video?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I'm, like wanted to have the call with you is because like I realized that this is something that, like I've been struggling with for a little bit, for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
That like after journaling and after, doing mindfulness, like lately, having more time to actually think about it, that it was something that I'm struggling with, right? Like, yeah, obviously back then I had confidence issues and all that, but I think like deep down, um, like I told you, like back then I didn't work as hard as I could have, or trained as consistently as I could have, or gone all in as I could have, because like I knew deep down if I failed, then that means I would have just been not good enough, right? Because if you work so hard and do all the right things, but still can't, compete with, some of the greats, that means that there was something like quote unquote inherently wrong with you, if that makes sense.
Okay, I
But
got
but I don't want that mindset, right? Like
you.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't want that mindset anymore because like I don't care about trying to prove that, to myself that I'm quote unquote good enough. I just want to be the best that I can be. That makes sense.
Yeah,
I don't want to find a strategy to overcome that.
that's perfect. Okay. Yeah, I think it's yeah, I think that's a great approach to really like be focused on the being the best you can be, you know, on your own journey. The first thing I would want you to realize is when you try to even if you worked your hardest, it's most likely you didn't have the developmental conditions those players most like 99% of those players at the top had
Right.
at the very best, you know,
Right.
because obviously most of them like big majority of them were in like the best academies in the world, and you can't like lie that like you can't fool that, you know,
Yeah.
that just there is going to be some gap. There are going to be exceptions, obviously, as like Jamie Vardy and so on. I believe he made it pro in like when he was 26 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are going to be exceptions that take a different route, but it's not like when you work hard, it's guaranteed that you're going to be there. You know,
Right.
just it just gives you a chance. Like,
Right.
so you have two scenarios. You can work hard, like give it your all, or you can not give it your all. If you don't give it your all, there is no way you're making it there.
Right.
You're
Yeah.
surely not going to make it.
Yeah.
If you give it your all, there is a possibility you
Yeah.
are going to make it, but it's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
So if it's the goal for you, like the only possibility to make it is to give it your all.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I would view it. Yeah,
Got it. Got it. Yeah.
cool. Any more questions towards this?
Yeah, so like yeah, shifting that belief is one thing, but do you have any like exercises that I can do? Like, or do you think just like journaling and going back to the identity modules is going to help, more make that permanent?
Mm-hmm. All right. So problems like these are usually mostly about like thinking. You need an understanding. When you understand these principles, the key is then to apply them in the day-to-day situations. What I mean by that is you will get into those tough situations, you will get those old thoughts, you will get them. What you need to do is in every single one of those small situations, aim to take the best approach based on what you know.
Yeah.
So it's only about like taking it into those small situations that you experience on a daily basis. Whenever you get those thoughts, you wanna take that approach of focusing on yourself, and that's it. It's you can't like fool it with an exercise or do an exercise and suddenly something shifts. You need to understand it, think about it whenever you can, just so you can convince your subconsciousness about that it is actually true. So give yourself proof whenever you can that this new belief makes more sense than the old one,
Hmm.
and then just try to apply it. Like you can do a specific thing, just try your best in those situations.
Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else towards this?
No, that's about it for my questions about that. Thank you.
Do you have anything else? Any other question you wanted to go?
No, that was the overarching
Okay. Okay.
thing. Yeah. I thought it would take longer for us to talk about it, but you said it in such a concise way that it all just made sense. Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
glad it did. If any questions come up later, I
Of
can
course,
send you
man.
a voice message. Okay.
Yeah.